Homo sapiens have been walking this earth for roughly 200,000 to 300,000 years. If we narrow our focus just to human civilization, meaning the complex, sedentary societies that sprang up as a result of the Neolithic Revolution, we are looking at a timeline of about 12,000 years. For the vast, overwhelming majority of that time, our ancestors lived, loved, built empires, fought wars, and died, all while being completely oblivious to the true rulers of this planet. In a word, I'm talking about microorganisms. We have only possessed undisputed knowledge of the microbial world for a little over 3.5 centuries. Think about the math on that for a second. That means that we have only known that microscopic life exists for much less than 1% of the time Homo sapiens have walked the planet. And we've only known that microscopic life exists for about 3% of the time that's passed since the dawn of civilization. Which means that for 97% of our civilized history, we were entirely in the dark. This isn't just some inconsequential piece of history trivia, because it wasn't just a minor blank spot in our collective view of the world. This was a gaping hole in our understanding of not just the world, but of life itself. Throughout history, microorganisms have been responsible for more human deaths than any other single cause. Think of the staggering toll of the Black Death, or the countless other epidemics and pandemics. Think of how many people have died due to a simple wound that got infected, or who have perished from sepsis. Yet the knife cuts both ways. Microbes aren't just deadly, they are also absolutely essential to human and animal life. Your gut bacteria actively digest your food and maintain your health. The yeast that makes bread rise or ferments our food and beverages relies entirely on microorganisms. Out in nature, microscopic life breaks down organic compounds to replenish the soil and keep the global ecosystem breathing. For almost the entire duration of our history on this planet, this invisible world dictated whether we lived or died, starved or thrived, and we were completely unaware it was happening. Now, to be fair, a few ancient thinkers had their suspicions. In ancient India, certain Jain texts hinted at unseen life, and back in the 1st century BC, the Roman scholar Marcus Terentius Varro speculated about invisible creatures in swamps that could enter the body and cause illness. But these were just theories. It wasn't until 1665 that the English scientist Robert Hooke published his book Micrographia, giving humanity its first real glimpse of microbial life by illustrating microfungus. Then, in the 1670s, the Dutch scientist Antony van Leeuwenhoek took the ultimate leap. By looking at a simple drop of pond water in 1674 through his handcrafted lenses, he revealed a hidden world, becoming the first person to observe bacteria and protozoa, and sparking the entire field of microbiology. Still, it took another 200 years to figure out how this invisible world actually interacted with us. In the 1850s, Louis Pasteur demonstrated that these organisms cause spoilage. By the 1880s, Robert Koch finally connected them directly to specific diseases. And viruses, they were hidden from us for even longer. In 1892, a Russian botanist named Dmitry Ivanovsky found that the pathogen causing tobacco mosaic disease could pass right through filters designed to catch bacteria. In 1898, the Dutch microbiologist Martinus Bijgerink confirmed this was an entirely new type of infectious agent, and he gave it the name virus. All of this happened, relatively speaking, yesterday. When you really get your head around the fact that something so fundamentally essential to life and death was completely unknown to us for 97% of civilized history, it gives way to a question with staggering implications. Is it possible that in our current time there are other equally significant facets of existence that we are absolutely unaware of? Are there other natural forces at play that affect human life in truly essential ways, but that we don't even know exist? The chilling truth is that there is no possible way for us to have any certainty that this is not the case. We have our known unknowns, the things we know we don't know. But logically, there is no reason to believe that there are not still complete unknowns, things we are altogether unaware of, but that do exist. And if there are such unknown unknowns, there is no logical reason to believe that they must be any less important than microorganisms. It is entirely possible that our absolute ignorance of the existence of something represents a gap in our knowledge every bit as significant as our previous ignorance of microorganisms. This brings us to science. When we speak of science, we're typically talking about the body of cumulative and empirical knowledge gained through the effective use of the scientific method. So what we call science represents only what we are able to measure and test repeatedly. But our ability to measure and test depends on a crucial caveat. Our instruments and our understanding must be sufficient to the task. We must have the physical means to apply the scientific method to our attempts to answer a given question. If we have yet to develop the necessary means, the scientific method simply cannot be applied. Furthermore, if we aren't even aware that a particular question exists to be answered, then it exists entirely beyond science. For these reasons, we must be incredibly careful that we do not allow science to function as a sort of secular religion, or what some have labeled scientism. We cannot treat it as an infallible doctrine that we believe can exhaustively describe or define the boundaries of what is real and what is not, and we should be especially careful about using science in this quasi-religious way when evaluating experiences that seem to defy our current scientific models, but have nonetheless been reported by countless people across time. Experiences with what we might call the paranormal or the supernatural, extraterrestrial entities, ghosts, angels, demons, extrasensory perception, telekinesis, even Bigfoot, have been and continue to be reported by a massive number of people. A 2025 report actually shows that 60% of Americans say they have experienced at least one of 13 types of paranormal events in their lifetimes. Talk of these experiences is often met with ridicule, disbelief, and derision, and tends to be roundly dismissed by those whose religion is science. But these first-hand reports of the paranormal aren't dismissed because there is irrefutable scientific evidence that such experiences are impossible. They are dismissed simply because we cannot, with our current scientific understanding, account for how such experiences could occur. To dismiss these experiences out of hand is not only arrogant and regressive, it is forgetting the profound lesson we should have learned from our long-suffered ignorance of microorganisms. Our history strongly suggests that it is at least possible that our science simply hasn't progressed to the point necessary to explain paranormal experiences properly. To refuse to acknowledge the limits of our current understanding of reality, and to attempt to neatly fit all of our explanations into boxes that don't force us to question our current scientific knowledge, is actually anti-scientific in both approach and spirit. True skepticism is highly useful. It's a hedge against adopting false beliefs and falling for comfortable lies. But an open mind, a mind that remembers that we only recently figured out what makes us sick, what makes our bread rise, and what lives in a drop of pond water, is equally important. It protects us from adopting a rigid worldview that leaves no room for us to discover the truth about our world, our universe, and ourselves. We are always still looking through the lens for the first time, but we have to be willing to see what is really there. If you found this presentation interesting or informative, please like this video and then subscribe for more mind-freeing content.